Hello. Think everything's up. Give me 1 second. Okay, everything should be up and running. So I'm starting a little bit early today, just because I had my stuff ready and I don't have anything else that I'm working on. But we are finishing up Wilbur Whately or Whately, whatever you want to call him. I've heard him pronounced both ways. As you can see, I've already done the base coat. I always do that ahead of time because I water down the base coats, and that kind of severely lengthens the amount of time it takes the paint to dry. And in the interest of not watching paint dry on the video, I always do the base coats first. But we're going to do some reddish highlights, and then I'll go over with the lighter skin tone, since the brown is just a base for the moment. Because he was supposed to be like slightly ruddy and tanned, I believe. That's not the language that he uses exactly, but yes, he's supposed to be, most people do him his lightly tan. So I'm going to highlight all like the knuckles and things and the nose and ears in a faint red. And then we'll go over with the slightly lighter skin tone. But yeah, you can see I've already done the darker skin, or darker black and brown. That's all I've done for the colors so far. Just as the base coat. And that's it. So we're going to highlight all of the joints. Now, you may have noticed I was having some issues with the clay last time. I don't know if I actually verbally said that I was or not, but I was having issues with the clay not wanting to cooperate. So there's a lot of markings and imperfections in this particular piece, and it's kind of annoying me. I did kind of bite the bullet and go ahead and buy some of my, the other brand of clay that I like better. Normally the Sculpting's not bad, but lately, I don't know if my set just dried out, but I've been having a lot more issues with getting it to blend properly and not crack while I'm working on it. So I may try using some of my other clays in the near future. All right. So the colors on this sculpture are a little wild. We're starting with the normal ones, the basic like slightly tan skin tone, but this might be too light to start with. We might have to go. Yeah, so we're starting with the little bit of normal description, which is the face and skin tone, and then the rest of it's a bit abnormal, to say the least. But yeah, there was a lot of imperfections in the clay, and I couldn't get it perfectly smooth, so I've been noticing I'm having more difficulty with that, and I think the clay dried out on me a bit, which is partly what made that so difficult. Or I may just need to find a softer clay that suits my technique a bit more. Could also be that. Because I don't usually have that issue with the clay that I use, but it's been a problem lately. And it definitely impacts the quality of the sculpture, so I don't want to keep doing that. Okay. There are times like these where I almost wish I had a one of those smaller airbrushes, because I see a lot of people use those and they make it seem so much easier, but I don't actually know that it is easier. I think it's just that it looks, the video editing makes it look easier, but I have a feeling it's probably not. But they do make it, the paint does go on a bit evener with airbrush. And I've often thought about trying to learn to use that. I've tried spray paints and they work a little bit, but I've had mixed success with that. But of course that's for bigger projects, not for little things like this. But hopefully my painting skills can cover up a little bit of the imperfections in the clay, since that was quite an issue with this one. And I always say this, but, if the eyes get covered up with paint, that's totally fine. The paint wipes right off of them, because it's, I think it's glass. A little bit of glass or a faint acrylic type thing, so it will not leave any lasting marks or issues. No, thankfully, most of the other parts of the body, other than the hands and the chest, do have texture on them intentionally. So that hides a bit of the imperfection in the clay. But it still bothers me, because it's not supposed to be like that. And I can make the wilder colors from the back kind of arc up a little bit over the shoulders, and that'll help hide that some more, I think. But and you may notice one of his fingers is temporarily broken off. I was sliding the whippoorwill out of his hand, and in the interest of being able to paint that accurately, I have to leave it out of his hand for the time being. It will be returned, and then I will glue the finger back on that came off without much difficulty. But that will be fixed soon. But it was somewhat intentional. I mean, I wasn't trying to break his finger, but I was trying to get the whippoorwill out of his hand, and it was not cooperating. So the one finger just came off with it. And then his chest, I'll have to look up alligator colored skin for his chest. Because that is, it said it was leathery like alligator. It didn't say that it was the color, but we're going to go with the color because I don't think we were given a color for the chest. Now, we were given a color for the back, and I noticed that was the thing I think fewer people do, obviously, because most artwork, you're going to show him from the front. But yeah, so I will have to do yellow and black on his back. So that'll be a bit unusual. Water this paint down a little bit. That should help. Yeah, there we go. Smooth it out a tad. Okay. But as always, we'll have to do multiple layers of colors to get the right color, because that always takes ages. Because this isn't quite the right skin tone. It needs to be a little more, less, it's a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little off. It needs to be a little bit more reddish and tanned, I think, would be a better estimation of what it needs to be, or at least what I was imagining. But this is just a start. Granted, it can be a tad unnatural, but we don't want to go too far with that. But yeah, right now he looks a tad jaundiced, and I don't think that's not quite what I want to go for. Yes, I think right about here at the back of the shoulders where we're going to blend in the yellow to black snake skin. As I said, I'm not terribly happy with the way the hands turned out. The clay was wanting to crack on me, and there's a few more cracks that it got after baking, and just very annoyed with that. So I may change the type. I have so many. I think I have like 5 more pounds of the clay, but I may save it for more textured sculptures where I don't have to do like smooth skin pieces. Because it definitely severely impacts the quality of the the sculpture. Oh, dang it. I broke off one of the tentacles. I didn't mean to do that. Here. I added a little bit of, oh, there we go. It goes like that. Now, I added a little bit of clear resin to the tentacles on his belly because I was trying to prevent them from breaking off quite as easily. Just because they're so fragile, they break very easily and makes it very difficult to work with if they're constantly falling off. Yeah, he looks too pale and jaundiced right now. We will fix that later. The hand won't be as big of an issue because it will be predominantly covered with the bird that he's holding. But yeah, I'm not happy with how many little imperfections there are in this. Despite, I even actually, after the video was over, started smoothing out more of the arms and stuff, and it still couldn't get it because it was starting to bother me. And the more I look at it, the more I'm seeing all the little imperfections, and it's. But yes, I did buy more of Fimo Soft, which is the clay I used to really love using. It's just a little more expensive, so I don't tend to buy it. But I did discover the trick of kind of revitalizing the clay a bit with some oil, so I've been doing that, and that seems to help. I shall have to spend more time conditioning the clay in the future, so hopefully that will help, and adding oil to it, a little bit of oil, so that I can prevent this from happening again. Because I think this sculpture could have been much higher quality than it is. But the clay was not cooperating. It's going to take a while to get the right tone that I want. Well, that's fine. I started early, so I have time. It always looks horrendous when I start. Okay, and let's see, we could do normal skin tone to about here, and then I feel like it should abandon. But and an all normal skin tone after that. Now I was trying to figure out like what snake pattern should I do for the back, because it doesn't really give too many details other than it's snake patterned, and that's really all it says, of the yellow and the black. Mhm. Right. Once we get a good coat on this, we'll start on some of the back. I think I'm going to fade. I had picked up one of my yellow paints in the basement. Or not in the basement, sorry, downstairs. And I think I'll start by fading that into the back and then do the black details on top of it and then do some yellow highlights. I think that's how we're going to do it. So once I get this sufficiently covered in a faint similarity almost to the skin tone I want, but not really, we'll take a break, let this dry a bit, and we'll start the back. Since I basically just have to keep layering colors until this looks correct. Okay. Oh, I missed a whole bunch of stuff. Missed this. And I broke another tentacle. Dang it. This is going to be a repeat pattern. Well, I think this one... Nope, this was not the one I broke earlier. I mean, I guess if I progressively break off every single tentacle, they'll all be really strong by the end of it. Okay. Now we're going to do the back, and we're not going to touch his stomach, because we don't need to break off another tentacle. Okay, so we're going to start with this orangey yellow color. I should probably hold him by the legs. It's probably the safest option. All right. And I think this color's a good color to kind of blend into the rest of his body just a little bit. Nope. It's too wet. The paint has unmixed itself, so I may have to be a little careful here. That's why it's so runny. Makes it blend pretty well, though. but it shouldn't be quite that runny. The funny thing about acrylic paints is they really like to unmix themselves. Okay, let me see if I can remix this one. No, it's almost completely liquid. It's crazy. I think I have another variation of it here. That is the opposite. It is almost completely jellified. Alright, between the two of them we can get a decent paint. Okay. Do this. There we go. Alright, I gotta double check. I want to check a reference here for snakeskin real quick. What that might look like in this instance. Okay. So, I should probably let that dry a little bit, actually, before we do too much with it. Yeah, so let that dry a little bit. Let me see. Intentional shading on the face here. All right. Let me see. Blend this together a little. There we go. Still a little bit too much, but I'll lighten that up a tad as we go. I haven't learned my lesson. I keep wanting to hold it by the tentacles on the stomach. It is so dumb. I keep breaking them and I keep grabbing them. Okay. Let's add a little bit of redness to the tip of the nose. A little too much. Oops. Dang it. This paint is also almost... I need to go through my paints again. Because half of them are turning into liquid on me, and the other half are drying out, and I need to go through and see what I need to replace. All right. Let me find another brush. Okay. Keep blending this all together just a little bit. We're getting there. His face is looking a little more... not human exactly, but a bit more defined. I will have to take just a second because I spilled paint on the floor and I don't want it to be permanently stuck to my floor, so I will be right back. Be back just a second. Okay. There we go. All right, I'm here. Crisis mostly averted. I just didn't want it to stick to the floor. All right. Now let's take a look at what kind of patterns that we can do on his back to give the implication of snakeskin. All right, let me pull up my references that I had here. Let's see. I need a smaller brush. Okay. Here, this will work. Okay. Let's see. There's so many different snakeskin patterns. Some are very symmetrical, some are not. Let's see. I'm just finding a bunch of snakeskin patterns and kind of just... I like the asymmetrical ones. I think they're the... asymmetrical and not zebra skin. Mm. Trying to make it not look like cheetah skin either, because that's the other issue. This is the part I really wanted to do, was the snakeskin pattern. Okay. All right. Almost All right, so I think this is good for like a basic start. We will add yellow to the orangey color that we have so far. There we go. So we had the skin on the back. I will take another paintbrush and we will start adding bright yellow. That is ironically what this paint is actually named. Bright yellow to the patches in between. And then I will probably also add some gold. All right. There we go. I think that's pretty. We're getting the idea of snakeskin and very asymmetrical. That's what I was attempting. I like this pattern. All right, so we have the pattern now of the snakeskin, yellow and back snakeskin on the back. I want to add some gold to this. Let me see, where did I put... Oh, there's the gold. I knew I had it out already. Here, let me... Since all of our paints wish to be unmixed today. Okay. Add like light gold highlights to this. Just here and there to make it a little shiny. And then I may add some of my dark grayish shimmery paint. I guess it's gunmetal. I'll add a little bit of that to the black. Just to give it this sort of slightly metallic sheen. Oh, you can kind of see a little bit of that sheen. There we go. So we got a little bit of shimmery gold on the back now. Now I want to try adding... Oh, my shoulder's hurting today for some reason. Now I'm going to add some of the darker gray metallic to the black patches. Just a little bit. Oh, do I have a better one? Yes, this is the better one. So I want to use this one. I want to use this one. Because I think it just adds more of that scaly depth to this. It's very shiny now. Very shiny. Shiny. I like it when it's like this. I love using the metallic paints. They're my favorite. Something about it, this just adds so much depth that the other paints just don't. All right. A little bit more. All right, so there we go. We have done the snakeskin pattern on the back. Yellow and black. I kind of like that. I think that's actually pretty awesome. I like that. Okay, now I go back to the difficulty of normal things like skin tones that I cannot get correct. I guess I could go ahead and do the chest because the chest is supposed to be alligator skin. And alligator skin is typically, I think, like a beigeish yellow color, maybe? Let's look it up. Yeah, it's a very beige color. So we'll probably start... Well, we already have the brown. We'll probably go for this and then a little bit of yellow mixed with a little yellow. All right, now we're going to mix some of this yellowish tone with it. Okay. Okay. I mean, I could go for the metallic again. That always looks good. Or not. I should probably also do darken. I should darken spots here a little bit. before I do too much else. Like, just here, here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Clear his eyeballs off just so that I can see him. Or something about having the eyes just makes it look so much better. We're getting there. Okay, so now I am... I think I am going to do the metallic just because it makes it look so much better. It really does. But only slightly. We're not going to do a ton, not like we did on the back. And then I may go over this with a faint beige color, so that it's a little more skin toned. All right. And we'll go over it with... Actually, maybe we should just do white. Go over it with a little bit of white to bring out all the highlights. And then we don't have to just dry brush it lightly. There we go. So it's off yellow skin tone. And there we go. All right, I should do another layer of the skin, just so so when I add the skin details, I don't completely have to do it or wait for it to dry all the time. Sorry. All right. We're getting there slowly. His hands still look really weird, so I'm not too happy about that. But I think it's time we try to get some of the gray-green color on the tentacles. I'm going to go for this green, because I think this green is probably the closest to what I was envisioning. This is going to be somewhat challenging because I have to do this without hitting the parts of him that we have already painted. Now the mouths on this are supposed to be red. That's why I left them the reddish brown. Because they're supposed to be like little suckers. So I'll attempt to do that. I think suckers usually have like a slightly whiter center and then red on the edges. But I will look up some pictures of that. Kind of depends on what they're on. All right. It's okay if we get on the fur, because I think we're going to go over the fur last. And that shininess was apparently the uncured. I added UV resin to the inside of like his stomach where all the tentacles joined, because I was trying to prevent the tendency they have to snap off so easily. But apparently some of it didn't cure, so I'm going to shine the light on it as soon as I finish this here. Alright. We'll have to go back and do some highlights on the green as well. But oops. I think all right. Let me find the light here. There we go. Yeah, I accidentally didn't cure all of it. I thought I had. All right, so we can see we got the green-gray stuff going. Now we need to add some light-colored pinkish red lids around the hip eyeballs. To make them extra disturbing. We'll do this just a little bit, so we can kind of blend it into the fur there. When we come back to touch up the all the black fur that we have. One thing I noticed with a lot of the other artists is that they very much mute the colors, and I'm definitely going for slightly brighter. I think it makes it slightly more horrifying, though, when the colors are just really wacky and wild and bright. It makes it more incomprehensible. Oh. All right, so now that we got that going, we're going to let the tentacles dry before we start doing the reds. Now the tail, the feeler tail trunk thingy, was a weird mix of yellow to gray and white. So I think we're going to start with probably a muted yellow, and then we'll do a little bit of gray, and then the purple rings, I believe. I think it was purple rings. Yes, the rings were purple. So since we have so much yellow, I feel like that does tie into the color pretty well. We'll use our extremely messed up paint. We'll just do the yellow bit first. And I probably should do a little bit of red on the interior of the mouth. Because then we can add some gray highlights. And then... Whoops, didn't mean to hit the microphone. We'll add some gray highlights, and then we'll do the purple rings. Oh. Oh, I should probably also do the little toenails, which I will do slightly in a whitish color, and then I'll do some of the metallic over it. Alright, I think, although it doesn't really say a whole lot, the legs are furry, but the actual coloration of the lower part of the legs, that is more dinosaur-like, is not mentioned. But I want to see if I can add a little bit of the greenish tone here. Like this. Before it goes into the black fur. Just a little bit. All right. Where's my gray? There we go. Gray. Okay. All right. I think I do want to add another shade of green just to make it more interesting for the tentacles in his stomach. Just a little bit. All right. Now, let's see. I could add a color around the mouths, but first I think I should do the red, probably, for the interior of each. I did keep the red pretty well distinct, but we'll make it clearer on each. All right, so I'm gonna put green. I wonder. That's fine. We'll do this. Okay. We're slowly getting there. All right. I don't know why my arms are so sore today. Ah, okay. Let me think. I still feel like it needs... The tentacles need something else. Maybe I can just add little bits of coloration at random. All right. Let me find a darker green. Let's see if I can. There we go. All right, so I think we're done with the stomach tentacles now. So we have that. The 20 stomach tentacles. We still got to do the legs appropriately here. Ow, my arm hurts. Okay. So this was yellow to gray. Okay. So we're going to tone down the tail color a little bit with some gray. This. That way we kind of get a yellowish gray tone. And then we'll need to do purple rings. Here we go. Let's start with the light purple. And then we can probably go with the yellow and gray over again just to neaten this up. Because I'm not going to get the edges perfect. I may do a faded... the darker purple or more burgundy color may be more in tune with what was thought, perhaps. More like a skin tone purple rather than this color. So I'll probably blend in the darker purple here in a second. Because I think that's probably closer to what was intended. And then once we get this in here, we will add a little bit of metallic, give a little bit of a sheen, and then we'll go back, let it dry, and then we'll go back over it with the yellow and the gray. I think it was yellow, gray to white, because all of him was like pulsating, if I remember correctly from the description. So we had multiple color descriptions, so I'm trying to do... It's kind of like the green-gray tentacles were pulsating green to gray. You could also, in theory, argue that he was, dying and decaying, so the whiter and grayer colors may have been like the absence of life kind of sucked out of him, That might be the intent. But you never really know. Okay. Oh. Okay. Let me find my... There we go. A little bit of purple. Oops, that is way too much. Nice thing about the metallic paints is that it's very easy to go very lightly with it. Okay, so now we're going to go over it with the yellow. All right, there we go. All right, I think let's see. Let me add some yellow tones to the nails. Because I think it's about time that we start touching up the black. Okay, at least on the legs. We'll start on the legs. Okay. Okay. I kind of fade the color into the legs. Sorry, I don't have much to say today. I did all the reading last week and I'm just kind of fading and getting tired. Okay. All right. We are approaching completion. We are not nearly there yet, but let me clean off the eyes here again. The hip eyeballs. There we go. There we go. Hip eyeballs. All right. Now I also want to I need to touch up the area around the nails here. Okay. But then I think I want it to be darker, so let me use a little bit of this dark green and do it that way. Let's see how that looks. And I think I'm going to add some additional green colors to the little bit of scaliness to the legs here. Do this. All right. Let me see. Oh, my arms hurt. Okay. Let me see. I think we should do... and a little bit of a brown to this. Just because I think we could use it. All right. We are progressing slowly. All right. I need to do another skin tone coat to the arms here. But I think I want to do the brown like I did before on the relevant parts of the arms. Kind of highlight portions of this to make the painting look a little better. Okay. Now we're going to add more of the skin tone again. Okay. All right. All right. Sorry I keep pulling this out of frame. It's just so much easier to work with up here. All right, now we need to add a little bit of pink. Not pink, I'm sorry. This is red. I'm going to add a little red here and here. To the elbows, to the fingers, and the knuckles, and the wrist. Red here, and here, and here, and there. And to the palm of the hand. It's a bit too much, but that's fine. I'll just go over it more. To the elbow. Okay. All right. Now that we've done that, we can add a little bit more of our brown to spots as well. See if we can kind of help the proper appearance of skin. Okay. All right, so now we do need to do this finger as well, but that'll be easier to fix later. All right, we're getting there slowly but surely. Okay. Okay. We are almost finished with him. And we got to paint our little whippoorwill here in a little bit. And then we'll glue the hand back on and touch up the last bit here. And the fingernails and all that. Yeah, the hands, quality of the hands is pretty bad. I'm disappointed in myself for that. I should have spent more time on it. Like I said, some of it was the clay giving me difficulty because it kept cracking. But I still should have spent a little more time on that than I did. So. All right. I am going to do it was too many. Too many. Where did my other tiny little brush go? I'll fix that because that's not quite right. But, this is more what I meant to do. Okay. I'll fix the left arm in a little bit, but yeah. It's a bit too much, so we got to go over that again. Once it dries, we'll fix it and make it a little better. So I did too much on that. But for now, we're going to work on our whippoorwill real quick here. Let me pull up references for whippoorwills. Whippoorwill. Yeah. Okay, so it is a beigeish brown. With dark brown and light brown colors. All right, do the eye first. The eye and the beak are actually dark, so that's good to note. Mm-hmm. Also need light. And then it looks like space around the eyes is light-ish, kind of. And then a little crest there. That is also white. And then white. There. A few little white patches here. And dark brown there. Light colors here. And dots. Lots of little variegated dots. Whippoorwills look like they've been painted with pointillism. They are just very dotty. Lots of little tiny dots. Right. A little bit of a darker spot at the top. I may not get this pattern quite right, but I shall surely attempt it. Okay, so then we got more whitish colors up here. And lots of little tiny dots, black dots. Hmm. What we gotta do? white there. And we have the darker brown and grayish brown here. And then patches of white there. Patches of white. Patches. Hmm. Still not quite right. Okay, I feel like dottedness. To be like that. And like that. And then let's see, do a lot more with the lighter colors. Not quite. I still haven't gotten the whippoorwill color quite correct. All right, I think that's about as good as my whippoorwill is gonna get. It is recognizable, but not perfect. We will have to make it work. And then glue this finger back on. Oh no. There we go. Okay, so we're going to have to touch up the nails and everything. And the arm part that I messed up by adding too much. Okay. All right. Let's see. I still need to kind of fix the arm here that I kind of messed up. Okay. Let's see where this has gotten us. Now we need to touch up the black in the hair still. Oh, hello. I'm actually almost finished, hopefully, with this one. I'm glad you like the stuff. That's awesome. I'm a little less happy with this one than some of my others, but I appreciate you stopping by. Alright. You just gotta touch up the hair. And then we'll clean up the eyes again. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was having issues with the clay, so there's more imperfections in this one than some of my others. So I may have to get some different clay, but yeah, I did try my best to follow the description. As wild and strange as it was. Just touching up the hair. See if I can clean the eyes off a bit here. Hold on. Get a clean brush. There we go. Make the eye clean. Try to clean off this eye. There we go. All right. Ouch. It was mostly self-taught. When I was like 8, no, even younger than that, probably 5 or 6, I really got into using, not the oven baked stuff, but like the clays that you can Play-Doh and stuff. And then my parents bought me Sculpting clay when I was little, and I started making little creatures. I didn't really do much with it until the past, I'm trying to think, like, probably the past 4 or 5 years. Maybe a little more than that. Actually, no, that's not true. Probably closer to 8 years. So I didn't do a ton with it, but I have been working with clay off and on since I was quite little. There's just something very satisfying about shaping clay. I still have a lot to learn. There's other artists I watch who are just insanely incredible. So I'm not quite to that level yet, but I have improved quite a bit even over the past few years. Most of my artwork I learn by imitation. I watch people and then I think, I wonder if I could do that. And 90% of my artwork has come from that. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you have ideas for things you'd like to see me sculpt, let me know. I do usually take those into consideration. Anything that I would recognize at the very least. So I've been trying to post polls and stuff more often. That way people can tell me what they'd like to see, and it gives me more of a guideline of what to do. Let's see here if I need to touch up anything else on his head. Do you like seeing more of the, like, creepy type weird sculptures like these, or do you like the cuter ones that I do? Like the little animals and things? So this one is actually from Lovecraft. This is Wilbur Whately or Whately. He's kind of half eldritch being, half human. So I can show you the back here. The description is extremely wild, so I was like, this would be a fun challenge. But yes, so he's from Lovecraftian lore. Okay, so you like the more mythology weird stuff. I'm always conflicted because I like both cutesy things and I like creepy stuff, so I've been flip-flopping between the two. Okay. But yes, he is a Lovecraftian villain. Last week's video, I spent some time talking about the book that he comes from. But, yeah, the description is a little bit crazy and wild, so it was a fun challenge to sculpt. Ugh. I feel like I made him not as creepy as he was supposed to be. Although everyone who saw it seemed to be mildly disturbed, so apparently I did. Yeah, it's mostly time consuming, and like even this, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm looking at this and seeing all the mistakes that I've made. But yeah, it's mostly just a bit time consuming and learning to recognize stuff. All right, let me see here. Oh, I need to touch up the ear. There we go. Oh, and I need to color the band on his hair. Yeah, the hardest thing and the part that I liked the most was the first part I did, which was the back. You can check the live video from last week. I think it took me 2 hours to sculpt, maybe something like 2 hours. And then this one's been running for about 2 hours. Usually, it takes me between like 4 to 7 hours, depending on complexity. I think the cherubim was the longest one I've ever done. This one I think has been roughly 4 to 5 hours total, which is not too terrible. But again, there's things I could have improved. The hands are pretty rough. I should have spent more time on those, and I did not. So that's kind of on me. I should have done a little better on that. What color should the hair tie be? Let's make it an orangey color. But yeah, every time I finish these, I'm always seeing the things I could have spent more time on and done a better job with. But hopefully over time I will improve continually. That's my goal. Yeah, and I think next week I'll, because when I did the poll for this guy, I noticed when I posted on TikTok that everybody wanted one of the other sculptures. So next week I'm probably going to do a fan art piece from Legend of Zelda. But, it'll be another creepy one. But we'll see. I think that's what I'm going to do next week. I'm trying to consistently make one every 2 weeks. Okay. What else do I need to do? Trying to think. Probably add some highlights to the hair. My favorite sculpture, probably one of my earliest. If you look back at one of my older videos, I did redo the audio for it. I loved my version of the Baku, which is I liked the mythology of the Baku. And the Baku is one of the Japanese mythology pieces it's a more benevolent creature that eats nightmares. And I really love the mythology of the Baku, and I was very happy with my sculpture of that one. It's an older one. I think the original video was one of my ones before I had a better microphone, and the quality is a little lower, but the sculpture itself is one of my favorites. Because I love the creature so much. But that's just because I suffer from nightmares, and the mythology of a Baku coming and eating all your nightmares sounds so nice. So I really love a lot of Japanese mythology, and I love a lot of Celtic and Irish mythology. Those tend to be my two favorites. Add some highlights to the hair so it has more depth to it. I don't think the highlights pick up on the camera too well, but I don't know, to be honest. I mostly am just trying to find a way to do something with what I like to do. I do sell stuff on Etsy somewhat, but that's mostly dice and functional pieces. Stuff like this doesn't sell. So I'm trying to find a way to make an excuse for myself to keep creating things. Because if nobody sees them, I'm just going to have 20,000 figurines in my house. So that's honestly it. It's like, well, people don't want to buy these typically, so it's like, well, maybe they want to watch me make them. I don't know. So it's a lot of work, though. It's a lot of editing. And I still don't know what I'm doing with audio settings and stuff. I'm still learning. Okay. So do you normally like to watch art type channels, or do you normally watch other stuff? I think I'll use a little white. Mostly watch art, yeah. I'm a mix. I watch a lot of different stuff. I'm always worried that I'm too boring to watch because I forget to talk after a while. If somebody's not like engaging me or talking with me, I always forget, oh yeah, I should be talking right now. I get very involved in what I'm doing, and then I just forget about everything else. Go. All right. Yeah, it is. It is. I like to watch. I watch a lot of digital artists, and I love watching things slowly come together. As an artist myself, I'm always very impatient because whenever I start something, I'm like, wow, this looks terrible. And then you have to keep going with it, and then it slowly it starts to look like something, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not a failure. Maybe this looks okay. But yeah, it is very peaceful to watch stuff slowly come together. I say I'm almost done with this one. I'm just adding highlights to the fur patterns that I did. But do you do any form of art? Or do you just like watching? Yeah, trust the process. And be patient. It's taught me a lot of patience. Very cool. I've been trying to learn animations and stuff for like the in-between stuff, but that's awesome. I spent 2 hours on one of my little in-between things I can show you. Hold on. Whenever I switch scenes, I spent 2 hours animating that little hand that comes out and changes the channel. I'm not very good at animation. It's very difficult. So I'm always impressed when people do it a lot. Especially if you're doing like frame by frame animation. It's awesome, but it sucks. I know it's very time consuming. And that and the video editing, so time consuming too. Thank you. I was pretty happy with it, but it took me a very long time because I'm not very good at digital art. All right. Okay. I think, oh, let me clean off the eyes, and I think I might be done here in just a second. This character has way too many eyes. It's just slightly horrifying. All right. Move the eyes up here. There we go. All right. I think I am. Oh, wow, you're animating on your phone. Yeah, that would be time consuming. I did eventually get a little tablet, but it's a cheap one and it keeps crashing on me. So I work with what I can, but it makes it much harder. I feel like animation teaches you a lot of patience. Every time I've done it, it's like, wow, I gain such a respect for people who do it all the time. All right. See if I can hold them closer to the camera. So for this particular character, Yeah, I know. And you work so hard on something, you're like, oh no, please, please don't die. I need this. All right. Yeah, so for this particular character, he was supposed to have a slightly inhuman, elongated face, a bit goat-like, so I tried my best for that. He had 20 little sucker tentacles coming out of his stomach. He had eyeballs on his hips, furry legs, and then sauropod-type feet, a weird trunk feeler tail thing, and snake skin on his back. It's one of Lovecraft's really wild, wacky things. But when I did the poll, everyone was like, yes, sculpt this one, so hopefully I have done him justice. And then in his hand, I put a little whippoorwill. Because if you've read the story, there's a superstition about whippoorwills taking people's souls, and he doesn't seem very happy about it. So I put a little whippoorwill in his hand. But yeah, this is Wilbur Whately or Whately, depending on how you pronounce his last name. There's a lot of things I think I could have done better. I definitely should have done a little better on the arms. But some of that was difficulty with the clay that I had. Anyway, I think I am complete with this little guy today. Thank you, I appreciate it. I don't mind. Long as it's something nice and respectful, I'm cool with it. My avatar is pretty much, I'm not sure if you mean me or the bear, but I was going to say the one of me is basically just me. Just me cartooned. But, yeah, I don't mind, really. That's fine. But yeah, I appreciate you stopping by today. Thank you. But I'm going to be heading out now. Now that we've finished this little guy, I will be posting probably the edited video within the next couple of days of the whole process. But it always takes me like 2 hours, I think, to edit videos. So, yeah. I think he is done for now, and I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate that very much. I always love it when people stop by to chat with me. It makes this way more fun. But I will hopefully see you on some other time, some other videos. But I hope you have a wonderful night, and I appreciate you stopping by. All right. Have a good night.